Hi guys, this is the second topic of the 17th chapter. We are going to relate decimals, fractions, and percent, okay? Our purpose now is to be able to change fractions into decimals and decimal to percents and percents to fractions and so on, okay? Let's suppose that someone tells you 35 out of 100 students own a pet. Okay, they gave you this reason. Remember, this is something that we can convert into all of this. Why? Because we're comparing one whole number in respect to an amount of 100 students. Okay, so we're gonna do the following. We're gonna convert that thing that we were said into a fraction, then into a decimal, and then into a percent. We must be able to convert each of these into one of the others, okay? So let's do it together. If they tell us that 35 out of 100 students own a pet and I want to write that as a fraction, I can say 35 out of 100. Okay? Wait, that will be the easiest thing to be done, and I know you won't have any problem. But do you remember whenever we were working with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions? At the very end of your operation, you had to do one step that you didn't like. Well, that many of you didn't like, which is simplifying. So you gotta simplify. So decide by what number you can multiply this fraction and make it smaller. For example, I know that I can get the half of 100, but I cannot get the half of 35. So I know just by looking at it that I can divide this by 5 and this one by 5. And I can simplify it. How many times 5 fit in 35? 7, because 7 times 5 is 35. And then I divide 100 by 5. I know it fits 2 and the 0, so it is 20. You need to do the same with this. I made it in my mind 35 divided by 7. No, by 5. It's 7. So that's what you do, right? You must know for sure how to simplify fractions. So anytime you have the chance to simplify, do it. So I just simplify it. I just wrote that amount as a fraction. Now, let's write it down as a decimal. If it is 35 out of 100, I know it is 0.35. Okay? Why? Because whenever you're gonna do this, if I want to change fractions into decimals and percentages, the best way to do that will be to have the number written over 100, such like this. This will help you better to do all this. It will make it better to write it like this instead of having 7 over 20. This is just the simplification of the fraction, okay? But this is the same as this and vice versa. So let's continue. Oops. I just changed the fraction into a decimal, and of course 35 out of 100, we know that is 35%. You did that yesterday or 2 days ago. You did that, and I knew that many of you found it too easy because I got a lot of 100s. So don't get confused by doing this exercise. Now let's suppose that they tell me that let's see. They tell me that 60 out of 100 people like dancing. That is an example, okay? So again, I need to write that as a fraction, then a decimal, and then a percentage. Let's start with the easy part. I know that 60 out of 100 will be 60 over 100. Remember, the total goes here, and the amount that we are selecting goes there. Then decimal. If it is 60 out of 100, it will be 0.60. 60 or 0.6. This is the same. And then finally, percentage, it will be 60%. Till now, this is a pretty simple topic. You can simplify this, dividing it by 10 and dividing it by 10. So 60 divided by 10 is 6, 100 divided by 10 is 10, and you are done. That will be the easiest part. But also, what happens if they tell you, now convert this fraction to fourths. I want you to convert this fraction into a decimal and then into a percentage. Remember what I just said some time ago? I mentioned that in order to do that in a better, easier, I need to make this fraction, instead of simplifying it, I need to make it compatible to one fraction out of 100. So I need to make this fraction to be over 100. Yes? So if my main goal is to change this 4 into a 100, I need to know that I need to make them equivalent. So by what number I can multiply 4 to get 100? Something you can do is the following. Divide 100 by 4, and that will give you 2 times 4 is 8, so I am left with this, 25. So I know that if I multiply 4 times 25, it will give me 100. And then I need to multiply 2 times 25, which is 50, in order to make it equivalent to a fraction over 100. Now it is easier to convert into a decimal, right? Because 50 over 100 will be 0.50 or 0.5, which is the same, and it will be 50%. Okay? Let's do it with another one. Let's suppose that they tell us, please now convert 1/5 into a decimal and then into a percentage. Remember, our main goal is to make it equivalent to a fraction that is over 100. So you decide 5 times what gives you 100. How I can know? I can divide 100 by 5. And I know it will be 20 because I just divided it. So if I multiply 5 times 20, it gives me 100. So 1 times, if I multiply this by 20, I need to multiply this by 22. So 1 times 20 is 20. Now it is easier to convert it into a decimal. So 20 over 100 will be 0.2 or 0.20. And then if I convert that into a percentage, it will be 20%. And I am done.